So let's talk. I'm shooting this video approximately 24 hours after the demise of a very young doctor, a 28-year-old individual who had the most ahead of him. Let me give you a bit of background. When devolution happened with the new constitutional dispensation, healthcare with all its functions, including human resource, was devolved to the county government. Before then, the national government used to post doctors to their stations of work. That meant that after 5 to 6 years of undergraduate training, plus a mandatory year of internship, which brought the total to around 6 to 7 years of training, you were automatically posted to your job station immediately after finishing internship. However, with devolution, the onus was on the county governments to employ, and governments have been dithering in this sector so that you find doctors actually tamarking for 1 to 2 years because of lack of employment. The few county governments that actually put out adverts for medical officers are beleaguered with many issues, including corruption, nepotism, cronyism, just difficulty getting employed in this county government. So you find medical officers who are straight out of internship quite depressed, not lacking jobs, having to really work hard to make ends meet because they do have families at this point, and they have to settle for whatever comes. I mean, half a loaf is better than none. So when the COVID came and the government was hiring 500 doctors to be sent to COVID units specifically for that purpose, they were offered 6 months contracts that didn't have health cover, and like I said, half a loaf is better than none. However, even as they worked in these units, even as they worked as the proper frontline healthcare workers, salaries were delayed so that by salaries have been delayed for around 5 months. I think by now they've been paid, but salaries have been delayed. So how do you expect an individual to be staying, an individual who has a family to sustain for 5 months without salary? Unfortunately, one of the doctors contracted COVID itself, and fundraisers have been going on to try settle his medical bill. Now, the more depressing stuff that has happened is that the doctor succumbed to this illness, not having health insurance, having to find ways to settle his own bill, and leaving a family behind. So this is the state we are in now. That's why doctors are a bit aggrieved. Regardless, regardless of how aggrieved doctors are, a section of the public is just trying to malign whatever doctors are saying. A section of the public is saying doctors are being selfish, doctors are only thinking about themselves, doctors need to cater to the needs of the public first because we are a noble profession. Yes, we are a noble profession. Imagine we know that. It has been imbued in us ever since training in medical school. We are brought up in the profession knowing that we are a noble profession. That's why doctors would send themselves in situations that necessarily are not safe for them, but because a patient needs their help, then they cannot hold back when they should be taking care of this patient. That's why doctors stay on in these situations where they're not being tended too well because of the nobility that the profession calls upon us. And that's why doctors would stay in these situations long until they reach a breaking point. And I think at this point, we've reached a breaking point. The nobility of our profession is it's well known. Even the public knows that we are noble in what we do, and they call us out on it. It's okay for you to call us out on it. If you see a doctor not acting in tandem with what's expected of them, then by all means call it out. The issue comes when doctors start asking for their rights. Should doctors put their rights aside just to take care of patients? Now, this is a very emotive issue. This is an issue that has very philosophical standpoints and viewpoints. Even within the medical profession, some doctors wouldn't want to go on strike because they feel like, regardless of how badly they're not being taken care of, they cannot leave the public that way. So, who should be taking care of the doctors? Doctors should be taken care of by the government, and the public would be distancing themselves from the government, which is quite wrong, especially since the government is given mandate by the public itself. Basically, what the government does has been sanctioned by the public. The public doesn't know how much power it has. So, when doctors say that the government is neglecting them, what they're saying is that the public is actually neglecting them. And this is why I am of the philosophical standpoint that when it comes to a point where your needs are not being met, where your life is being put at risk, then you really can't be held back by conversation around nobility, when nobility doesn't necessarily stem from an oasis within a desert, but nobility stems from your needs being met and you being facilitated to be noble. How can you go to school for this duration of period for 6 to 7 years, only for you to come out and you're not sure of a job placement? If this trend continues in a country that has a shortage of around 150,000 doctors, a country has a shortage of 150,000 doctors, but you have 2,000 unemployed doctors. If this trend continues, then students will be finishing med school already looking up ways of living the country. And believe you me, we have a very marketable skills. Countries out there are pining for this workforce. And once doctors start leaving, going to Canada, going to the US, going to the UK, this public that is so quick to call us out on our nobility, this public that wants us to serve selflessly, who will you have to call out? Who will you have to serve you once doctors leave? That's the main reason why the public shouldn't follow this rhetoric of admonishing doctors even when we are hurting. So that's all I had to say. Hope it made sense, and I hope someone learned something.